Welcome to a quick guide on Tormented Demons. For gear, you're going to need two different styles, whether this is magic and melee, or ranged and melee, or magic and ranged. Though I would always recommend using at least melee if you have the Arclight. I wouldn't really recommend using magic unless you have the purging staff for the Dark Demon Bane spells. The shadow is decent here, but really suffers due to the 20% DPS loss from the flame shield of the demons. So really, melee and range is going to be generally your best options, which means Arclight plus some kind of ranged weapon. Either the Scorching Bow is going to be best in slot, or the Twisted Bow, if you have it, is great here. Or if you have the Bofa and blowpipe combo, also does really well here as well. If you don't have an Arclight, you can use the Abyssal Dagger or the Abyssal Bludgeon, but they're not going to be as good as Arclight here. You're also going to need preferably two different 7-tick weapons for each of your combat styles. So I'm using the Heavy Ballista and the Derek's Great Axe. You can also use the Light Ballista, crossbows set to the accurate style. You can use the Dragon Two-Hand as a good 7-tick melee weapon. Or you can also use the God Swords as well. The SGS is probably the best bet if you're wanting to use a God Sword here, but all of them will work. A note on the melee weapons, they all need to be set to Crush, so if you have a 7-tick melee weapon that is not Crush, it will not work here. For the inventory, you basically just need restores and stat boosting potions. You can bring food if you're not too confident or you don't have something like the Blood Fury. But if you have like a Blood Fury and a blowpipe and you understand the mechanics of the fight, then you generally don't need any food here. You do need a lit sapphire lantern to get there. Jagex have said they might release a teleport in the future, but at the moment we still need it. And then also you'll need some method of teleporting there. I just use house teleports, but a games necklace will also work. So in order to get there, I'm going to eat the anglerfish. I'm going to grab a 1-dose stamina potion. And then I'm going to use my Tears of Guthix teleport located in my house. Like I said before, you can use a games necklace, but having a house teleport just makes it a bit more convenient. You'll basically just follow the same route that you did in the quest. You'll climb back up these rocks, attract a light creature, and then you'll want to travel into the chasm, not across the chasm. Once you get into the chasm, you'll run south and climb up either of these walls and go into the cave entrance up here like you did in the quest. Now is also a good time to drink your stamina potion. There are multiple demons in basically every single one of these entrances down here, or these chambers up here. There are also 2 in here, and then more back down in that room, down there. Typically, I like to come down here. You can see this spot as you run past, and then there is also 2 demons down here that you can check as well. But you really just want to hop around until you find a world. At the moment it's a bit crowded because everyone wants to do this, but once I find a world, I'll be back. Alright, I found a world. I'll explain the fight a bit, and then we'll see if we can jump right into it. The demons will start with a random protection per active and a random attack style. They can use magic, melee, and range. They're basically an upgraded version of demonic gorillas with a little bit more going on under the hood. Every 25% damage you do to the demon, which is 150 damage, they'll change their overhead prayer to the style they were last hit with. So if you're hitting them with melee, they'll change to protect from melee, and you'll have to change to your second style. Every 25 ticks, which is roughly 5 to 6 attacks depending on the weapon that you're using, their defense will drop. Now, if you're using something like the Scorching bow or the tbow, this doesn't really matter. But if you're using something like the Bofa and blowpipe, then once you get, to that 5 attack mark with the Bofa, then you want to switch to your blowpipe, because the blowpipe is basically guaranteed to hit every single time and will do about 25% more DPS, I'm pretty sure. Oh, it looks like our world was just stolen. That's fine. Every 60 ticks, they'll fire off a special attack that is basically a set of fire bombs that will target your currently stood on tile and 1 adjacent tile. This will also cause them to change what attack style they are currently using. So if they're using magic, they can switch to either ranged or melee. If they're using range, they can switch to magic or melee. And if they're currently using melee, then they can switch to magic or ranged. This special attack will also cause their defense to reset, so you'll have to wait another 25 ticks for it to drop again, if you're using the blowpipe as one of your DPS weapons. And then there's also a mechanic with the 7-tick weapons, which is when we'll use our ballista or our axe or whatever slow, hard-hitting weapon that you're using. Basically what happens is all weapons that are slower than 4-tick become 4-tick. So the axe normally has a 7-tick hit cycle. If I hit it with the axe right after he fires off his special attack while his shield is off and I'm using crush, then it'll turn into a 4-tick weapon. And that extra slowness basically gets converted into damage. So if you're using a 7-tick weapon, you get 33 damage. If you're using a 6-tick weapon, you get 20 damage. And if you're using a 5-tick weapon, you get 9 damage. However, this damage bonus only applies if you're using a heavy ranged weapon like a ballista or a crossbow, or melee weapons set to crush, or magic weapons that are not powered stabs. You have to be manually or auto casting spells. So that's a quick description of the fight. Now I'm going to see if I can actually find a world, and we'll jump into an actual showcase of one. Alright, looks like we found one. I'm gonna pod up. Turn on Piety, throw in a random prayer. We don't have attack style yet. It's using range, we can swap to that. And we'll just keep hitting it until we've done 25% damage, which we have, so we can now swap to our second style and continue hitting it. Here's the special attack, so we're going to move out of the way. We're going to adjust to melee. And we're going to fire off our heavy attack weapon. Now, there was a lot going on there. So when it fires off the special attack, our first priority is we need to move. I typically like to step back, as it lets you easily identify which prayer it's swapping to next. And then your next goal is you want to switch to your heavy weapon and get that big hit off, and then switch back to your normal weapon. When it is switching off of melee to ranged or magic, it's basically just a 50-50 guessing game of which style it's going to swap to. But if it's on one of these two styles, you can use the step back method. You step back from it, and if it continues to walk towards you, then you know it's going to be targeting you with melee. However, if it stands still, then you know it's going to be targeting you with whatever that other long distance style is. The other thing that I haven't been doing that I've just been missing it is you can pull off the special heavy attack on the second hit after the demon spawns initially, which I'll try to demonstrate on the next kill. But yeah, every 25% we're just swapping our styles, and we'll just keep waiting for that heavy attack. Throw out that. As you can see there, I was switching from, it was using magic, and I stepped back and it stood in the same place, so I knew it was going to use ranged instead of melee because it didn't try to continue target me and continue moving forward. But we're just going to keep swapping our styles. Waiting for those heavy attacks when they come. If you're using the Bofa and blowpipe, you also want to be counting those 5 attack cycles to know when its defense is going to drop, which I'll try to showcase a bit more here. So we're going to swap to our axe for the second hit. And see how we stayed in our 4-tick cycle. We didn't get anything great, but we did get that minimum guaranteed 32 hit, which is nice. And it's that second attack after you initially start fighting them is when you can proc that special heavy attack mechanic again. So just a bit of a demo for the Bofa blowpipe method. When he starts off, pick up our Bofa. For the first 5 hits or so, you can still use the heavy ballista for that second initial attack again. But then after about 5 attacks or so, we're going to switch to our blowpipe because his defense should drop. And once his defense is dropped, the blowpipe basically has 100% accuracy and will do significantly better than the Bofa. Once he gets to that 25% mark again, we're just changing our styles, keeping an eye out for any special attacks. This is right there. Go for the big hit, and back into our normal attacks. So this is probably going to be a bit close. I'm actually probably going to use the Bofa for a hit, and then immediately into the blowpipe. Yeah, blowpipe works super well, so does the Bofa, but if you're bringing the Bofa, I think you're kind of trolling yourself if you're not also bringing a blowpipe, just because your DPS will be significantly better after those, first initial 5 hits on the defense reset. Yeah. That's about it, though. If you're using the SGS as your primary weapon, you want to be speccing on the big hits. So either those hits immediately after the special, or you can do the SGS on that second attack after, like immediately after you start fighting him initially. I think that second attack method for trying to get the SGS in is a bit more consistent, just because you don't have to wait for the special attack. You can just kind of proc it on demand. But in general, I do prefer the blowpipe, just because you can proc it any time after his defense is dropped and he's not praying range. So I think it's just a bit more consistent. Yeah, that's about it though. Happy hunting.